Hey, how you doing? This is Tom, and this is Tom's Radio Room Show, and I'm learning how to use this new scan function in SDRUNO 1.3. And I've been working with the support team at SDR Play to answer some of my questions and correct some of the mistakes I've been making. And I've got it working pretty good now. Right now, I have... Let me show you. I've got it stopped. Go to scanner configuration, and I've set up custom preset 2 to start at 5.1 megahertz and stop at 7.0, which is a good band for this time of the morning, which is 5:55 a.m. And I've got a hold time of 5 seconds, threshold of minus 80 dB. And I'm not waiting on signal because I'm trying to capture some frequencies. Now, if I actually wanted to listen to what's been found, I would turn on this wait on signal. So it's going to just find a signal that's greater than the threshold and stay there for 5 seconds and then go on. And I've got turned on save to memory panel, which is down here, and then continuous loop. So that's what's running right now. And one of the things they pointed out is you need to stop and start the radio separately. So right now it's stopped, so I need to start it first and then start the scan. So now it's scanning. Okay, let's stop it. So it's scanning that range that I gave it, and then if it finds a signal above the, I think 80 dBm, minus 80 dBm, it will stop there and it will put an entry into the memory bank here and stay there. Right now it only stays there for, like, I think I said 5 seconds maybe. Let's see. Memory's not too good. 5 seconds. And then it will go on because I did not click on the stay on the station as long as there's a signal. And then it will go through the whole band and start over and then continually scan through that band. And then after you've collected a bunch of frequencies, and I'm going to let it go through the whole range, and then I'll show you what the results are. Okay, here we go. We turn it back on. And it's displaying right here where it's at. Okay, so it scanned through this at least once or twice, and these are the frequencies it found where there was a signal stronger than minus 80 dBm. And the other thing is to keep in mind, this is it's doing a scan really fast. So even though you might be looking at a signal right now that's not going above, according to this indication here, your threshold that you set, instantaneously it did, and it stopped and recorded that frequency. Now you can go back and delete any of these you didn't want. So say they were just noise, and leave the remaining ones that you are interested in. So for instance, I'll just pick one here randomly, right here. I highlight it and then I hit the delete key on my keyboard, and that entry is gone. So you can clean this up. Once you've cleaned it up, then you can use the other mode of scanning, which is scanning by what's in the memory bank, which is this mode right here. And then it will step through each of these frequencies you have in a memory bank. Now you could define your own memory bank if you want to, and you could do that outside this program. You can create a CSV file, import it into here, and then use the scan memory. And I've got a bunch of I got 6 of these memory panels databases that I've captured at different frequencies. And you can load those in. You just go right click over here, open bank, and then open the one you want, and then you can use the memory scan mode. Let me see if I can show you that. Well, before we do that, let's just use what we found here. So we can go to the memory. First we want to stop the radio. That's one thing they pointed out, because I had a couple of times where things weren't working right, and they said the steps you need to take is you need to control the radio up here and then use the scanner function. So it's stopped now, and I'll change modes to memory. So now it should scan what I've got in this memory bank and only scan those frequencies. So it'll step through each one of these entries. And the S column here, you can say, okay, that there's nothing on that frequency right now, so you can click on that and click on the I'll get it in a minute. Okay, how come whoops, what am I doing wrong? I got this stopped. Okay, now I'll try it. Okay, now it's not doing it. There we go. I had to double click. You double click on an entry, and then you can select wire in to whether you want it to scan or not. You can leave it there, or you can just say, that's definitely not a frequency I'm interested in, and just delete the entry. All right, so we're gonna start the radio, and then we're on the memory mode, and we're gonna start scan right here. So now it's scanning just those frequencies that it found before. And there's only a dozen. So it goes through them really fast. And you can see up here where what it's holding on. So here's 6.34, which is right there. So it's on that one. Now, let me stop this for a second. Now, one thing I requested is that when it's scanning, and I don't think, from what I've been told so far, I don't think they can do this, is when it's scanning the memory panel here, that it highlight the frequency it's on as it scans. But what they told me is this scan function is super, super fast. And so the display can't keep up with it. So I don't think they'll do that. They do, well, what I really wanted to do is when it lands on a frequency, one of these here, to highlight the one it's on. So that if you put comments over here in the description, which you can add manually, you can quickly see what frequency that is. You know, you could say, you know, this is channel radio. So you could quickly just look at this thing and see it's channel radio. Otherwise, you have to look up here at the frequency it's on, or over here, or up here, and then come down here and find that entry. It's just a little nicety I like to have. So it's working pretty good now. And again, you have to be really careful how you set this up, because I was not getting it to work at all. It was doing some things like it looked like it wasn't scanning, but what I was told, and because the displays were not changing, what I was told that it was scanning so fast, and my step interval was so small that it appeared that it wasn't changing, but it actually was changing. So you get a little bit fooled in that the display is not keeping up with the scan that's going on in background because it's so fast. Another thing I noticed is that depending on my parameters here is that the display up here it looked like it was jumping. Again, it was a case of the display not keeping up with the actual scan process. I've got it set right now. Let's see. Let's go back to, let's stop it. Gotta stop it. Go to range. I'll look at the range. So right now, I've got it stepping at 10 kilohertz. So it's like, for instance, if I set that to 100 hertz, then the display may not be as smooth because it's just running so rapidly. So let me show you scanning again. So I'll hit play up here, then I'll hit scan, and it's stopping, of course. Okay, now let's so you can see what I'm trying to show you better. Let's change this to a threshold of, let's move the threshold up. Let's go to looking at the screen there. I'm going to go way up so it doesn't stop. Minus 60. Minus 60. Okay, another thing they pointed out is when you change something, hit enter and then save preset, close, and then start the radio and then start the scan. Now, it should not stop because, well, it did. Yep, there's a signal, a couple of signals that are way up there. Okay, but you can see or not see that this is not, doesn't look like it's changing, but it is changing. It's just the display can't keep up. Okay, let's stop this. Stop the radio. Now, the other thing they pointed out is make sure you have the bandwidth at a reasonable number, which is, I think the bandwidth they're talking about is this one up here. And so you grab this, and once you grab that, it will show you up here. It will change this to show you the bandwidth. And so, for instance, and this is different depending on what part of the spectrum you're on. I'm right now on the HF spectrum, and so for VHF and UHF it'll be different. So I'm trying to, it doesn't want to, did I have that stopped? Get that stopped, got that stopped. Okay, it's making a liar out of me here. Okay, let's go down some. There we go. Now, before, again, I'm still learning how to use this. Before, in the display up here, it would change and show bandwidth instead of RBW. It's not doing that now for some reason. I don't understand that. But anyway, the idea is you want to keep this bandwidth narrow, so that it's, when it's trying to do the scan, depending on your step size, it's not overlapping itself. I probably didn't explain that properly, but anyway. So I do have it working, and I did a scan last night in, I think in the 31 meter band, and it found a bunch of stations, and then after it scanned a couple of times, I said, okay, and I went through and edited out, deleted the ones that I knew weren't international broadcast stations, and told it to scan those other ones, and it worked perfect. Now, another thing that they pointed out is that if you have a mix of signal types, it could have some confusion factor for the scanner. For instance, if you were scanning an amateur radio band, and in that amateur radio band there's all kinds of data types besides just audio types, that can confuse the scan. They pointed out that this scanning feature works best on VHF and UHF, where in a given band, the data type, or not data type, the signal type is the same. For instance, the example they gave in their video was the air band. So the air band, everything that's normally there is going to be an AM mode voice. So the scanner function works good. If you try to scan, like I said, if you try to scan in an amateur radio band with multiple data types and signal types, it'll struggle. It'll struggle. So I've been, and I'm not really interested in scanning the amateur radio bands. I'm interested in scanning the international broadcast bands. Now, that brings up another point that I asked them about, and they said they'd have to refer it to the software design team as an add-on, is when you come up here to scanner configuration, you're limited, and I don't know why there's a limitation. You're limited to default medium wave Europe, medium wave North America, airband ROW, airband NA. These are preset, and you can't change those. Marine band. I don't know why. Stand by. I'm listening to the local Pinellas County Fire and EMS, and all of a sudden they got busy. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I guess a lot of people are on the road or getting up and finding out they're having health problems. Anyway, so these are preset, and you can't change them. Like I can select airband North America and see everything is grayed out except these other parameters down here. So I can't change the range. And then as far as user defined, there is only four presets you can set up. Why it's limited to 4, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to have 20 at least, because I'd like to, number one, I'd like to set up a preset for each of the international broadcast bands, save it, and then it's done, and then I can go back and use it. I don't know why there's a limit here. And I didn't get a response again, because that's considered not a problem, it's considered a new feature. So we'll see what happens there. That's one thing I noticed. The other thing I requested is if they could, when you're in this band and when you're in this scan range configuration, and they find a frequency and they put something in this memory, could they add a column that tells you the power level at that time? Just as an indication. Another thing, could they put in a column for the number of hits you get on a particular frequency as it scans? Because as you noticed, and I'm pretty sure this is true, once it puts an entry in here, even though it'll hit it again on another pass, it doesn't make another entry, so you don't have duplicates. So that's good. But since the software is smart enough to know it's a duplicate, they can have a counter that shows each time it's hit when you're doing this continuous pass. Just another little nit feature that I'd like to see. I think that's about all I can talk about right now. It does seem to be working pretty good, but it's got these little things you have to remember. Like I said, I crashed the program at least once, maybe twice, and they indicated that you need to control the radio up here in this window. So when you stop this, you need to stop it up here, which it's stopped right now. And then when you want to use the scan function, you start the radio up here, and then you start the scan. Got to do it in that order. So you can see right now in this range, I guess this is the airband, it looks like it's jumping. Well, that's only because it's doing the scan so fast that the display here can't keep up. That's all. You have, let me stop it here. You have, to my knowledge, you have no option except for the, let me show you, let me stop the radio. Except for this hold time, you have no option of the speed at which it scans. So if you wanted to have this display keep up or try to keep up, you could, if you had that option, you could say, you know, only go to the next frequency after a second or something. So you could slow it down, and then this would be nice and smooth and increment. That, to my knowledge, that option does not exist. Okay, I think I've told you all I know. Hopefully I didn't say anything wrong, which I could have. Oh, I did see, I don't know if I should mention this or not, because I don't know if it might have problems. But one thing I did is when I was doing the scan using the memory bank, I turned on this record up here, the power and SNR to CSV, so that I could get that power and SNR number for each of the stations as it scanned it. And it did do that. And it did look correct. So that's one way to monitor, get a recording of that, to look at, to see, you know, what's these various stations are doing as far as power and SNR, not over a band, but over a set of frequencies. To me, that's an important feature, and I didn't see any mention of that in the documentation, and I didn't get an acknowledgement that that is okay to do that it might not give you wrong data. So that's it. I appreciate all the help I've gotten from the SDR Play help group, help team they call it, help team, and we're going to experiment some more with this. If you enjoyed this show, please give me a thumbs up, and have a great day. Bye-bye.